you know, which products would be good for you and all that. So they had a real need, which is they were close to closing around in funding, and they needed a little oomph in the marketplace. And at the same time, Sarah Blakely was recognizing the founder as one of the women entrepreneurs of the year to watch. So we kicked into gear, and in 5 days, we created some traction in a pretty significant way, primarily around Facebook, with some remessaging and video, and some other targeted ads. And that gave them just that oomph that they needed to take it to the next level. And as you all know, as startup entrepreneurs, getting that, that case study, that proof of concept. So there was another young gentleman who approached us, a social entrepreneur based in China, who had a conundrum how to explain to the world seemingly a complicated concept that was to be developed into a simple online application. And as soon as Chris gets through the testing,
The world is full of buildings, great places to live, and work in. Not so great for the environment, or for people's health. And buildings aren't going away. Here's how this building. Like other building decision makers, he's feeling pressure to retrofit his buildings and lower his energy costs. But he worries about what's available, finding time to attend conferences and evaluate solutions, and he's just not comfortable going outside his network. That's why there's Cedar, one place where decision makers can easily connect with green building solutions that can reduce operating costs, attract and retain tenants, and improve the property's value and public image. Cedar can even help them access incentives and funding for those improvements. So our office building owner posted his project need on Cedar. An energy consultant had recently joined Cedar. Like many solution providers, he was looking to increase visibility, identify new sales channels, and build his reputation. He created a customized portfolio featuring past projects, case studies, and referrals. The building owner viewed the portfolio and saw contacts that they had in common, reviewed case studies, and shortlisted his favorite companies. He found the process much more efficient, say through a typical slide presentation. Once the connection was made, the obstacles to collaboration were eliminated. Cedar stepped aside and the players worked together directly. The final project was showcased on Cedar, bringing additional visibility for both the provider and the now energy efficient building. Cedar is more than online introductions. We're the source of market insights, validated provider information, and socially verified feedback. We're led by a team with environmental, engineering, and project management experience and industry connections. Visit cedar.cc and sign up to find project opportunities or solutions for your building. Cedar, making connections for a cleaner tomorrow, one building at a time.
And that is Cedar. And so what I'd like to do now is introduce the founder of Cedar, Alex Shore, who is a semifinalist in the upcoming 1776 Global Entrepreneur Challenge. He recently was selected, or at least made it through the round in Beijing. As you probably figured out, he's my son, he's our son. So we'll do anything to get him to come back to the US for a little bit. So I really want to thank you for turning out to welcome him tonight so we can tell that story.
He is right. They will do anything to come back into here, including to moving into Atlanta Tech Village, which I think is actually the real reason here, not to work with startups. So anyway, you just heard the story of Cedar, what we do. I'm hopefully going to give you more behind the scenes about my experience as a social entrepreneur, as an international entrepreneur, I guess you could say, and a bit of a digital nomad, working from many different places and working with stakeholders in different countries all at the same time. So we have a little formatting issue here, but basically, my story is simple. I went to the University of Georgia, studied finance, was on the investment banking track. Then the financial crisis kind of started heating up, and I started to actually travel. So through my sophomore year of college, I went to South Africa. That was the first real eye-opening experience where I saw what real poverty was like and what kind of challenges people around the world were facing. So I started to reassess kind of where I was headed. But still went into the financial track because that's what I studied and that's what I wanted to at least understand. So worked at State Street Bank for a few years after college. Interned there junior year, went there college and really built a good foundation, but wasn't fulfilled, wasn't satisfied, and saw the people above me were not really in happy positions, good positions that I wanted to be in. So I decided, okay, I need to find something I'm excited about that motivates me. And that's really where I started looking at, well, you know, what's out there, who do I know, what are some interesting locations, because I have no ties, you know, Atlanta's home, but I know at this point, I'm 21, 22, when I was thinking about this, you know, I don't have any ties anywhere, so where can I go? And that's when we really started seeing China as an interesting angle. And that's where I basically decided, okay, I'm going to check it out. So I went there for a month, round trip ticket. I had a friend there who was based in Shanghai, and he introduced me to really interesting people. And within, you know, a few weeks, I was ready to go. I said, this is the place I want to be, and I think there's a real opportunity here in this clean tech, green building space. So that's where the story begins, and I'll kind of take you through my experience starting a company and bootstrapping a company. I think that's the key here. I think a lot of entrepreneurs I already spoke to earlier here are interested in how do you bootstrap a startup, and what are the opportunities to actually, you know, get resources, grow. And I think a lot of people have heard of accelerators and incubators, right? Most people probably couldn't tell you the difference between the two, and what are the different kinds, and who should use them, and at what stage. So hopefully I'll bring a little bit of light to that today. That's what I want to focus on. And feel free to stop me if any questions. You know, keep it informal. This is really just me sharing my story. I've got no ulterior motives here. So first off, yes, I've been to 50 countries. That was a long process of always, you know, not only maximizing my vacations when I was working at the bank, but taking advantage of my time at college. Really, every time I get a chance to travel and see new places, meet new people. You know, I've done some cool things. Just real quick, to give you a little backstory of me. You know, this is the top 3 things I've done, I think, in my life right now. Kilimanjaro, that was the coolest thing I've done. Anyone you get the chance, definitely try and do it. It's a physical feat. I worked at a cheetah farm in South Africa, helping, actually, this little gross here in the bottom right, but it was the first cheetah ever to receive a prosthetic limb. Its leg got cut off in a bear trap, or actually the cheetah trap, because the farmers killed them because they eat their cows. This center was started by, supported by Howard Buffett, Warren Buffett's son, actually, to start rehabilitate cheetahs and introduce them to the wild. Second coolest thing I've ever done in my life. And the third coolest thing was I worked on a 3-month project in the Amazon, helping an eco resort introduce sustainable components and also to market to an international audience. So that's just unrelated to my experience in China. Just 3 really cool things I've done that really helped to give me perspective and change my views a bit. So if you haven't already gotten out of Atlanta, at least once in your life, do it. Change things for the better. My mom might say for the worse, but you know. So anyway, what we came to talk about is bootstrapping, right? I mean, that is a fundamental belief that I have, that if you can actually grow your company and start your company without having to take on debt, bring in investors from an equity perspective, you know, sell your soul essentially at the early stage, you can have control to build this in a way that you think is going to take in a place that you believe in, because if you don't believe in it, you're going to give up on it, and in a way that really can have the flexibility to follow new opportunities, because the market right now is changing faster than it ever has in the history of the world. So I mean, if you're not able to be lean and move and change directions on a dime at the early stage, you're going to be stuck. I've seen a lot of people who raise money early because it's easy and sexy, and it does solve some problems, but then it creates a whole host of others. You've got to please your investors. You've got people to every week or month or breathing down your neck to show results. And you know, at the end of the day, you can't go back from that. You can't say, oh, I need to change course here because, hey, your investors just signed on for, you know, they want their 10x payday, and you've got to give it to them. So anyway, bootstrapping has its advantages, and that's a few of them. Restlessness. That was one thing, real quick, I want to touch on, because I think it's important for entrepreneurs who are not yet entrepreneurs. I noticed earlier there were some people who were thinking about being entrepreneurs but didn't quite raise their hands when they said, I'm a founder, or I am already an entrepreneur. So this is kind of me right there with beyond, you know, working at State Street Bank and doing some interesting things, learning. And obviously it's a cliche story, right? The corporate world is boring. I don't think that's the truth, but I think if you're not in a role that you really love or believe in, you're going to start getting bored, ideally. And I think that people are saying, oh, boredom's bad, but I think actually boredom was the best thing that happened to me, because I actually was able to kind of build up a reserve of energy, if you will. I was restless. I was saying, what can I do next? Where are the things I can really dive into that I care about? So it gave me this time to really build up this not only small financial base to actually live on, but, you know, and security, which is important, obviously. But also I got this welling of energy. It just built and built and built. So my point being, if you're in existing role now that you feel like you're not happy with or restless or whatever, take advantage of that. Don't say, oh, this sucks. Say, this is an opportunity for me to really just build up my passion, look at what else is out there, and then once I'm ready, flip the switch and make it done. So anyway, let me just switch gears again and just jump into the accelerators incubators talk here. Just to clarify things so we're on the same page, an accelerator is very different than a business incubator. There's just two worlds here, and people use the words interchangeably often. So the first thing about any accelerator is that they're going to have a very clear application program. It's a very clear application process, as you say. It is a set, defined, usually 3 months program that has a very intensive step-by-step process to it. It starts at the beginning and it ends with a demo day. An incubator is more of a, hey, I'll help you come. Usually it's a real estate play. Come work at our space and enjoy the benefits of it. That's even different than the collaborative workspace, which I'd say ATV is more of. This is where you're creating a community. But just so we're clear, the biggest differences are the demo day at the end, the set time frame, and the equity component. You're obviously going to be giving away equity in exchange for some either financing dollars or support. It could be one or the other, but there's an equity component. So anyway, now that we're on the same page, now we can kind of jump into the fun stuff. First of all, as you've probably seen, this is just one shot I found. There are accelerators all over the world now, and pretty much for every industry, every geography, every kind of business that is available. You go to startuplink.com, they track all of the accelerators, startups, and co-working spaces around the world. There's well over 100 accelerators that they've tracked. I mean, I think the number is probably double or triple that if you actually take total number that are not so well known. And you can see some of the numbers here. I mean, the US is obviously the biggest, but Europe is just as big, and Asia is coming up in the rear. And I'll talk about the first one here, China Accelerator. So this is the first program we did. After I started Cedar, I had some traction. I had a small team, and we needed some funding, but we also needed some support, networking, mentorship, and credibility, really, at the end of the day. So we actually applied for the China Accelerator program. It was, long application, some interviews, and through some of our references, we got in. It was great. And this is one that I would say put that in geographic focus. So they have a specific focus on Asia and China, and they're the largest. They call themselves the largest accelerator in Asia, in the East, actually. And basically, that was a huge catalyst for us. We were able to not only get our team together, they helped us hire a few people, like a developer and a salesperson, but they also gave us, and some capital, $30,000 in capital is not so bad. I mean, it's not huge, nothing, but in early stage, that was, that kept us afloat for the next 6 to 12 months because we were running lean, and they gave us office space, they gave us free legal support, so a number of things in exchange for just a small amount of equity. I believe this one was 5%, and that was, it's a high number if you look at it in valuation terms, but in terms of the resources we got, it was, invaluable. I would have done it 10 times over. And so that's an example of a geographic focused incubator, and they have them all over. You want to be in India, there's India ones. You want to be in Sub-Saharan Africa, there's Sub-Saharan Africa accelerators. I think these are important because they give you connections. You can basically, anyone here in this room could apply this program with whatever existing idea you have, and in 3 months in the program, you would be totally plugged into the China market because of them. Because they tee you up, they give you the credibility, and then they help to push you forward. So Startup Chile was the next thing we did. That was like, okay, after we did China Accelerator, we were about to raise money from some investors, some VCs, but I wasn't really, the terms we were getting were really, to be honest, just crap. We were getting, people wanted Series A terms, they wanted a lot of control, they wanted to put all these stopgaps in place, they wanted to have board seats, all this stuff that I wasn't ready for. But, we're still developing the idea, we've got some traction and revenue, but we're not, the end model's not there yet. So I wasn't really comfortable bringing on a VC. So we actually, the last minute application, literally like a few hours before the deadline, a friend of mine was like, hey, you should apply. We did, and we got in, luckily. So this is totally different. This is not an accelerator at all. This is a community-focused grant program. So they are building the largest startup community in the world, so they say. And I think it is pretty large. They accept 100 companies every 3 months. And they've been doing it for 4 years now. So 100 companies every 3 months, and adds up into a huge community. So you're dropped into Santiago, Chile for 6 months, and they don't provide many resources except free working space, but they provide a community, and the community grows itself. Every week there are presentations and workshops and meetings and meetups for people who are like-minded and who specialize in different areas. For example, I did presentations and workshops on China, on startup pitching, on raising money, on bootstrapping, kind of similar stuff I'm talking about here. And it was cool. Other people did the same, so I really got it's a nice organic feel. So that's kind of what ATV is a bit. I think you have this community-focused space. There's stuff going on, like what CWI is doing today. There's a lot of that, and I think that's really important. But it's not an accelerator. They're not going to give you the fuel under your ass, more or less, to make you grow. The next thing we did, all right, we started with Chile. That was great. We gave us $40,000 in equity-free capital. No equity at all. But after that, we're starting to see how can we get into the U.S. market, because the biggest component demand that we were seeing from our clients in China is they wanted foreign technologies. So we need to build our network in the U.S. So here comes Fledge, and that was a social, they call themselves a socially conscious incubator, the first for-profit social enterprise accelerator. Actually, and so they are focused only on social enterprises, and they are a for-profit model. So there's a lot of social enterprise incubators, accelerators, and programs out there, but they're mostly nonprofit or charity-based, whatever. These guys are very much for-profit, and they've got a really interesting model. So they do a revenue/equity model. They take a small portion of equity, and the rest of the compensation they take in exchange for the investment they make is through revenue sharing. So you pay them 4% of your revenue until they make their 3x return, which is the return they require. I think it's a really interesting model. You don't have to give up much up front, and it's only based on, it creates shared values. They're incentivized to grow, help us grow. And again, the reason we joined them is simply the network. It was a small amount of funding. I think it was $20,000. But the most important thing, again, was the network. They plugged us into Seattle and got us in meetings with the governor, with the local state officials, with all the startups and technology companies there. In 3 months, we were able to create a huge kind of following in the Seattle market. And we're still working with a number of the technologies we met there, helping them come to China. Can you believe I've done all these things? I can't believe it. Then I did the Ignite program. So that was totally different. It was another thing that got interested. Started Chile, recommended Cedar and myself. This is more of a personal program, not necessarily a company program. And I thought it was a pretty cool opportunity to tap into the Stanford network and learn from these professors. So Stanford essentially took their favorite class, which is the Ignite class. Of all the business classes they offer at the graduate business school, this was the one class that got the highest reviews and loved. So they brought this to a few countries outside of Silicon Valley: Beijing, Bangalore, India, Paris, France, New York, a few other places. And they basically set up these 3-month programs where they bring in the best entrepreneurs they could find in the area, and they do a really hardcore boot camp focus on the academic side. So it's basically like taking all the stuff you learn, but really looking at it from an academic perspective, looking at the statistics, the interesting case studies, really looking at data, which I think gets overlooked a lot of times when you're just talking to other successful entrepreneurs. They're like, oh yeah, here's my experience, this and that, and it's really helpful, but you hear the same story over and over, and you're not really sure how to apply that to your own company or your own experience. This is why I like the Stanford Ignite program. Data-driven from the best professors in the world. Anyway, so that was great, and it helped me personally, especially to figure out where the opportunities are. We tweaked our business model a bit from it, and also additional credibility stamp always helps. And most recently, as my dad already mentioned, we won the Beijing Energy category for the 1776 Challenge Cup, which is based in DC. It's an international startup competition. The finals usually, like last year, Barack Obama was at the finals. I mean, it's a really big deal for startups. So I'm excited to be on stage, be able to present there, and we're competing for $650,000 in awards. And that would be great visibility. But this is a different kind of thing in itself as well. Is they have a competition, but they also have a support system and network that if you do win, once you're in, you're kind of like an alumni, and you get access to a huge database of successful people in their industry. They kind of match you up. So they're also a matchmaker at the end of the day. So anyway, that's kind of a comprehensive list from my personal experience, but I think that kind of covers what kind of different programs there are for different people, different startups. I mean, it really depends on the stage you're in. It really depends on the kind of business you're building in terms of the scalability of it. One of the challenges we face at Cedar is that we're taking a service and trying to scale that. So that creates a little bit different dynamic for us, because not only can we can actually offer the service as a traditional consultancy to bring in revenue, which we've done, But we also have a heavier thing to scale because it's relationships, it's content, it's specific to projects. So again, if you're building a mobile app and you're all you're focused on users, you might want to look at this a little differently. I think if you're looking at it from that perspective, then you want to do whatever's going to give you maximum visibility. And that's where something like, I can say a more international program like this would be awesome. So this is plug and play. This is the largest accelerator in the world, so they say, and I think they're pretty close to it. They incubated 1,200 companies so far, and those companies have raised over $1 billion in VC. Apologize if the text is so small or formatting issue, but basically plug and play is actually leading our next round of funding, so we're in the process of closing that, and they're our lead investor. And I think I'm really excited to tap into the network they have. So we haven't gotten full access to it yet, so the deal's still in progress. But once it closes, they basically bring us into their network, and they are like, I would put them on par with Y Combinator or Techstars. These other names that you've probably heard of that are the big guys, and these guys are just all at scale. And I think someone who's doing a mobile app or something in that space would really benefit from looking into a large incubator. Techstars, I think, is one that I really respect. Dave McClure is the leader of that. Or no, 500 Startups is Dave McClure, and he's another good one that he's actually leading and kind of expanding internationally. So that's kind of the lay of the land, again, from what I see. And so before I go on, any questions on accelerators, on incubators, on my path, on recommendations while we're at it? That's a good question. I think, well, I hope you have a good sleeping system because, otherwise, I've seen that. I've got this little gray patch forming here. I think that's from that. The question was, what if you have two startups? I'm assuming there are two startups you're talking about, or it's
kind of a grand scale, but things kind of fall into one place. Both of us spring out.
It's a good question. So I think my gut feeling is you really got to compartmentalize, first of all. You have whatever system you have to compartmentalize, but have two distinct times that you work on it, two distinct kind of even places that you work on it. So you're getting the mindset. But in terms of accelerators, incubators, and other kinds of mentor programs, I think you kind of got to pick one and really be like, this is the one that I want to go big. One can be maybe a side business or a lifestyle business, but I think you got to pick one that you want to scale because that's what all these programs are looking for. If you're a lifestyle business, they can help, but they're probably not going to be that interested because these guys are all of them looking at how we can make a big impact, whether financially or socially or just make a splash. So I would say pick one. Go as deep as you can on that in terms of how selling it to positioning how you can really create something that's going to grow and can get economies of scale from these organizations. Because at the end of the day, your pitch really needs to be about how they are positioned to help you. Because most of these now are so specific that you have to really tailor it. Like if you're going to pitch to apply the China Accelerator program, well, you really need to have a clear pitch on how you're focused on China, how you can benefit from the network in China, how your Chinese people might like your app, or how you can manufacture in China and go overseas, whatever it is. There needs to be some connection with China there. Or Startup Chile, how you can apply that to the Chilean country or government and how they can benefit. So just tailor your pitch, say focus on one and that's going to scale the most, and then the second one can grow as well. Ride the coattails of your network and stuff like that. Yeah. Okay, go for it.
As a graduate, we can speak a little bit about people's experience.
Definitely. I think it's a great question, something I face every day. And especially in China, I'll give you my comments are more China specific, but I think it's one of the most exciting markets in the world right now. Obviously, 1.4 billion people doesn't hurt, but mostly it's the GDP growth, it's the access to technology. I think over 700 million smartphone users. That's almost 2.5 times the size of the US. It's unbelievable the size and scale. So point is, in China, I think the issues are, one is trust is the biggest challenge. As an outsider, you get a lot of trust benefits, but you also have a lot of trust, you could call them, downfalls. So foreign people generally initially get trusted more because, they feel like foreigners are, for whatever reason, and they feel trustworthy. Okay, they're not Chinese, we can trust them. But then at the same time, it takes a long time to really build a relationship because you're kind of an outsider, you don't understand their culture fully. Whether it's going to dinners, basically the first thing I realized is that business is not done during the day. It's only done at dinner. And I mean, not even being facetious here, it actually is only done at dinner. So you have to realize that, okay, totally change your strategy for how you sell, especially in a B2B environment. Okay, so I meet with this chairman of the company. I'm not going to, in the first meeting during the day, that is not me selling. That is me just chatting, getting to know him, telling the story. Then we get to dinner. Then once he's comfortable with me, then we can talk about the business deal itself. But don't even try and approach it. So it's getting to understand the local business culture. And the best, I guess, thing that I've found is to partner, right? You have to find local partners who you can trust. If you can do that, you have the best of both worlds. You have foreign team and a local team combined is really where you really get results, because you leverage both sides of the equation, right? You have a lot of benefits the foreigners bring, you have a lot of benefits the local team brings, and you bridge those. I mean, it's a constant. I kind of think of it like starting a company overseas is like it's like a double startup. You're not only having to build your company, but you're actually having to constantly test out what strategies work, what strategies don't work in terms of just general communication and sales and things like that. So localize your team as quickly as possible. Get the right partners on board. Adapt. You have to realize that you don't know how things work there, so just be a sponge at first. And wherever you're going, learn the language, or if not the language, the cultural things right off the bat. And the best way to do that is to find a significant other who's of that local nationality. I didn't do that, unfortunately, which has been my downfall, because all my friends who have Chinese girlfriends are, their Chinese is 10 times better. But that's how it goes. So again, just get local, and I think at the end of the day, it's all about trust anywhere you go in the world, especially in developing markets where contracts are not contracts. People can totally, doesn't matter what I write down. It matters when we shake the hand and look in the eye. So it's just totally a different way to do business. So anything more specific, feel free to ask. That's kind of just the best overview I can give.
I feel like by bootstrapping and going around the world, less opportunity on the table, the more decisions you have. You have a lot of competitors in this space.
Yeah.
That's the you're not moving as quickly as that.
That's another really good question. I think there's a couple different angles. So I mean, basically the question is, as an international entrepreneur, I think both. I think the main point was, are you able to move as fast as your competitors because you're all over the place? I guess is that kind of what you're getting at?
And you said that you want to be more time.
Yeah.
How do you take money to grow faster and scale faster?
It's a good question. So there's a couple, I think, questions in that, apply in that. So let me just try and address them. To answer that directly, I think, hindsight's always 20/20. I think I'm still glad we didn't take the funding specifically because it was from an investor that I didn't think really understood our business or was in a position to help us. But there have been times where, like, mostly when it comes to the team building side, there are a few senior guys that I've still talked with. Oh man, I'd love to get them on board. Their salaries, you got families in this nest, their salaries are pretty high. So that's the only time I've really felt the pain of not having well capitalized, at an early stage. But I think the benefits have definitely far outweighed that, and now I'm in a much better position, having gone further, raising money at a better valuation with more options and a lot more clarity in terms of where we're going. But the international component I'll kind of touch on is there's a lot of opportunity costs to being international, right? I mean, I could have stayed in Atlanta and probably built this similar kind of business, but the pain point is so much smaller here. The market is so much more competitive, and so there's kind of on both sides. It's easier. I know the market here. I have some really good contacts, but then there's the pain point small, and the upside is also smaller. So it's I think you always are looking at pros and cons, but you got to look at where you have what your competitive advantage is as an individual and as a team. So I think that was where we saw, well, we have a big competitive advantage that we have this network in the U.S., but we have people and a team on the ground in China. So there's not many people that have that. Layering on that, some different other elements in terms of experience of people on the team. And I guess just we built the right partnerships, and we had kind of built this foundation that we were able to compete effectively. So yeah, I think that's kind of the answer is analyze the opportunity costs. Going abroad, I think is going to be generally open up more doors than less. But you got to manage that. And then as far as the funding, make sure taking money early is only a good idea if you need it and there's the right people. it can definitely help, but make sure that those two criteria are met.
Can you describe the time period you get all this happening?
Yeah.
Sure.
So 3.5 years ago, I moved to China with no idea about what exactly I wanted to do, except I knew I liked the environmental space, and I had a good feel about the real estate industry and rebuilding. And then, the first year I actually started another company with 2 partners, so we were doing consulting for clean tech. That was more of a traditional consultancy, which gave me my foothold in China. I was able to figure out the cultural things and build my network. So after about a little over a year of that, I had a really strong network. I knew that I saw this pain point, and then for the next 2.5 years, I've been working on Secret. So that was where, 6 months in, we joined China Accelerator. 6 months later, we started Chile. Then we did, and then it stuff kind of just fell into place. It wasn't, you see the opportunities, you take them, and then you integrate them, and I think everything is like the lean startup approach to things. I think that really makes sense in terms of you're always just validating what the market says by testing it, and then integrating that into your model. So we've definitely changed as we've gone, but it's the core principle really the same as what we started 2.5 years ago. What's our one more here?
Now, say if I didn't go to the national, but I have no
yeah.
I would start typical situation.
Well, I think it's a good question, but I think, if you don't have enough money to go internationally right now, how do you do it? How do you start? So I think, the initial answer is one of these incubators or accelerators that have a presence there. I think as long as you have your story down, you don't necessarily have to have revenue. They're looking for early stage companies. They'll back people with an idea and a business plan, but the plan has to really tell how you're going to get from A to B and what it is that makes you unique. And ideally, I think this is the most important thing, is build a team. If you already have the team of people who have the PhDs, and I don't know exactly what you're doing, obviously, I'm only if you're doing something technical, PhDs. If you have the team, you can go anywhere. That is the most important thing. Start with the team, get it early. And if you're a solo founder, like I was a solo founder initially. My biggest regret was not bringing someone on earlier than I did as a partner. So then, and feel free to get a third partner. Have the team, because that is what these companies or these accelerators are looking at. Sure. So yeah, I'll jump ahead here a little bit. I already talked about kind of why I chose China. I'll show you this photo here just because it's pretty shocking. But, the mask. But yeah, so let me just show you the team quickly and. So, essentially this is our team. I think Johnny Brauweis in the middle here is he was my first entry. I don't know if you know laser pointer here, but the guy there, he was my mentor early on. He became my business partner in the first business we started called E8, and also business partner. He was one of the third partners that I started with. And he has been a great, what I would recommend for anyone is to find that mentor, find that supporter who's not only going to be your supporter, your friend, potentially your investor, which he is good. But also somebody who you can really, get open feedback from, because he always, calls me out when I'm screwing up, or I can go to him and say, hey, what do you think about this? Should we bring this person on? Or if I need to help close the deal, I'm like, hey, Johnny, can you come join this meeting and bring your expertise and your kind of credibility to the table? And that always helps. So the point is that's been an essential part of my experience, my team. He's still involved as our chairman and our advisor. CTO, it took us a long time to find a good CTO. Please do that as soon as you can, or whatever business you're in. Even if you're just building an offline business, you're still going to need someone to do the website and all this other stuff. So that has been really important. We are pretty decentralized. He's actually based in Ukraine, but we managed to work with him, pretty well. We use a couple tools such as Slack as my favorite to communicate. Obviously, I think Larry, I don't know where you are, but we were talking about that earlier. The virtual teams and how they're getting more and more popular, and the best way to bootstrap. We have local expert Shujun, he's solar background. He's all involved in speccing out the projects, putting together the reports, due diligence. And we have our marketing and operations person who helps in the Chinese communications and stakeholder mapping and things like that. And this is our core team, but we have a number of other people who we work with on an ad hoc basis. Again, bootstrapping, so there's no need for us, or there's no, we didn't want to hire a huge team or getting interesting on board early, but what we can do is scale up and scale down as we need. So we've got a pretty big roster of consultants. We've got part-time sales, commission-based salespeople who work with us, more like partners. And we're always looking for how we can partner with other organizations to tap into what they're doing. We're a pretty specific niche. For example, one of our partners called Gigabase is a materials database for green materials. So we partner with them. They do a lot of marketing and events already. So we're like, instead of trying to do all these marketing events ourselves, let's just ride in their coattails, support them, and it's kind of a win-win. So that's really how the team has evolved, and looking to bring on a few more senior guys, as I mentioned, now that we're raising this fund, this next round. We have 2 people who are, I call them industry veterans, who we're bringing on full-time, or at least working on. We haven't finalized anything yet. And that will really bring us the credibility and also the expertise that I need to take this to the next level. Because where Cedar is going is really the financing component of this whole green building marketplace. So really, at the end of the day, we want to match the investors, the technologies, and the building owners and operators together. So it's really 3 distinct parties. And the part we need help on is on the financing side, setting up, structuring, and performance contracts, and setting up different kinds of mechanisms to basically offset the cost for the building owner. So even for buildings like this, if I can come into talk to the owner of this building and say, hey, look, we have a financing solution to completely pay for the retrofits that you need to save 20 or 30% on your energy bill. All you have to do is sign the contract and pay no money today, and actually pay no money ever, and we get paid back, or the investors get paid back through the energy savings that are achieved. So that's where we're scaling. That's where we're heading. Just to kind of give you guys an idea. Anything else?
So right now, how do we make money? Is it through AdWords, or?
So we make money through matching the actual technology to the project. So every time we make a successful match, we get paid from the vendor side. So they pay us a fee, as well as we have a membership program for the, again, vendors and technologies. So we invite them into our network, our membership program. Right now it's $1,500 a year. They get access to the projects and events, and we do some content for them. But at the end of the day, we're really an extension of their business development team. But we do have a very tightly vetted process to get, because we only want to work with companies that are very, have a good reputation, or trustworthy, have proven models in China, because there's a lot of technologies that don't make sense there. And then that helps us. We take that portfolio of technologies and we go pitch it to different building owners and operators. And the goal is to make that more automated as the platform evolves.
All right, anybody else have any other questions for Alex? We want to make sure that, that you're able to get those across. I mean, he did come from China. Yeah.
I'm a hologram. I'm actually not here.
So, what's that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And Alex is actually going to be here tonight and also throughout the week, visiting here at the village. So feel free to make sure you see him, get his card, get his information, phone number. It works here, right? It does work. Okay, here. Cool. All right. I got 2. Don't worry. He has 2. So please feel free. He's an open book, and he's actually come here to be a resource. But I would actually just like to give you a hand. Thank you very much. You did a great job. And so, once pictures. Oh, let's see. All right. So, as Michael told you, today is actually the official launch of CWI Ventures. Anybody have any idea what CWI Ventures might be about?
No.
Okay, fine. Then I'll just tell you. Why don't I just tell you? Okay. So what we're looking to do here, the reason why we actually joined ATV about 8 months ago, and what we're looking to do here is we're looking to partner with various ventures, startups. We have a sweet spot for startups, as you can see. It kind of runs in the family, right? And what we're looking to do is invest our services. And then our financial partners are looking to invest cash into promising businesses, simple enough, right? And so this is what we actually offer startups and really just anybody that works with us as a client, okay? What we do is we craft the story, all right? We create the strategy and we provide the service. So you've seen some of the explainer videos, you've seen, there's a lot of different things that we like to kind of share with you if you have further interest in CWI and CWI. Okay? The companies that we're looking for are early early stage startups who are beta ready or beta tested? Anybody quite there yet in their stage of business? Anybody? Okay, put a little shine around. Cool. But then also, if you have any kind of market testing going on. So if you're working on those things, or if you're at or around that point, we'd love to talk to you. So Michael Shore, once again, raise your hand. Thank you very much. Michael Shore would like to talk to you. I would also like to speak to you, and our friend Jay Hill as well, okay? So feel free. At this point, we're going to turn some more music on, so if you want to dance, that's fine. I know you got some juice in you. And then we also have some sushi, okay? So once again, thank you very much for coming out, and we look forward to doing another Sushi for Startups very soon. Thank you. And I'm sorry, one more thing. We have to thank our entire team for actually helping put this together and for their support as well. I'd be remiss if I didn't actually thank them. Thank you, team. All right, cool. We got this.
Sushi and
Goodbye. See you guys.